Welcome back to Spin Doctors Archive, the podcast. I'm Daniel, and spindoctorsarchive.com is your number one source for all things Spin Doctors. News, discography, set lists, live recordings, and much, much more. In this episode, we sit down with Eric Schenkman, the virtuoso guitarist and co-founder of Spin Doctors. I really enjoyed speaking with Eric and hearing his perspective on the band's past, present, and future, as well as their discography, of course. I hope you enjoy it. Eric, it's great to finally have you as a guest on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on the podcast. Good to be here.
I'm really looking forward to hearing your stories, thoughts, and memories about the band. And as you might know, Aaron and I, we looked back at all the Spin Doctors releases here on the podcast, and that's kind of what I want to do with you today as well. From the band's first self-distributed cassettes to Up for Grabs, A Pocket for Kryptonite, Turned Upside Down, to Nice Talking to Me, until A Face Full of Cake. So you're down to do this?
Yeah, I'm down.
Cool. So yeah, let's start with the very early stuff. Can't Say No and Piece of Glass, your first studio recordings you released in the late 80s and on cassettes that you were selling to the people. What do you remember about those days and those recordings particularly?
Well, it's funny you should ask. In here, it's funny. I've got this drawer here. Where is it?
Oh yeah. You're grabbing them right now.
I actually have one. I'm just looking real quick here.
Me too.
Yeah, I've got a lot of. I got this. I can't quite open the drawer, but I have all of this shit. I've got tons of cassettes. You'd probably love my cassette drawer. I have like all of those things that you're talking about, and I have, everything. I have like they're all the cassettes, all the early cassettes. Yeah. So the first we started recording in the new school in room 208. We wrote a bunch of songs in there, and we even had a Spin Doctors theme song.
Oh,
yeah. Spin Doctors, What's Fit to Print, I think it was called. And I wanted to have a theme song, so we had an early.
So is there a recording of this in your cassette drawer?
I just have to open it. There's a leaf table that's extended, and it has a bunch of heavy stuff on it, so I can't actually open it right now.
I see.
But
yeah.
When I'm done, I'll take a picture. I'll open it. I'll take a picture of it, and you can.
Oh, very cool.
You can.
Thanks.
Yeah. So room 208. There was a bunch of early tapes we did there, and then we would go to various. I think we had a gig. We had a gig very early on. We had a couple of gigs, but when we started rehearsing, we'd go to some of the rehearsal halls around town, and I would usually grab a cassette of those too. I have some cassettes of those rehearsals.
So we're talking like 1987, late 87, early 88, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then, we started playing gigs, and of course we didn't really record gigs per se because it wasn't really convenient. Occasionally somebody would record something. It's too bad. I really wish you could just go back and have a phone back then.
Oh yeah. The oldest fan recordings are like from, I think, early 89 or something like that. Yeah. So we're not very familiar with the very, very early stuff.
Yeah, there's some Nightingale's tapes. I have some crappy cassettes of some stuff. It's not very good quality probably. But then there's and then after a while we wanted to, as you know, make an actual recording. So we made, I think, Can't Say No first.
Yeah, I think Can't Say No was the first one.
Yeah. So we made that. It's quite a good cassette. I really like it. And
Aaron said he prefers Can't Say No over the second one.
Yeah, I do too. Because the second one we were trying to be more pro about it, but I think it was just a little bit too. It was too pro. We were working with people that. We had an actual photographer and stuff like that. It was, we're a better band when we're just kind of winging it. I think historically back then for sure. So the first one, Spin Doctors are really at their best when we're not trying too hard. And and Can't Say No is exactly that. Piece of Glass is we're trying a little bit, stuff.
Yeah, you can tell from the way that the tapes are designed. Like Can't Say No is really like has that self-made feeling to it, and A Piece of Glass looks a bit more polished, and it's
exactly.
it's a colorful artwork and so on. Yeah,
It's got like actual typeset, and the Can't Say No is just a picture that a girl named Carolina took of us standing in front of a junkyard. And, and it says, Can't Say No. I don't know who did the art. I can't think of the top of my head. Maybe it was Fritz or it was Darren, or in any case. Yeah.
You played Can't Say No a couple of times, like 10 or 15 years ago on the shows. I was always hoping that the song would make it into rotation again. So whatever happened to that song?
It's like one of the first songs I ever wrote. We do it occasionally. I mean, it's just an old song, and I'm not really crazy about, I'm not, the other two guys are like really into their compositions. They like them. And I'm more of a, I'm more of like a, I don't know how you describe it. I just don't, I've never really liked writing. I really never, I don't mind the sound of my voice, but I never really liked what I wrote. Particularly, it was always a reaction to something. More of a punk kid, really, at heart. And
so you like recording more than writing stuff?
Yeah, I like playing.
Playing, yeah.
I really like playing, and I like to play, and I like to play and sing. I like to jam, and writing has never been it's been something. It was always something that I tried to do, and occasionally I would do by mistake. Those ones I like the best, that song Off My Line. It was written in about 1 second, and Can't Say No was also written in very, very fast, and I like those songs. They're cool. Yeah, Can't Say No is more of like, it's just something that came out of like when I was about 18 years old, and we just played it for a while, and then we sort of stopped, and it's hard to summon that feeling. It's like, it's a very angry, sort of an angry song.
I see, yeah. You're not in the same mood like decades later than you were back in the day, right?
It's okay. I mean, like, we do it occasionally. It's such an early song. Most of our early songs, like Chris's early songs, are more apropos because, he's usually at the mic and singing and whatnot. So he likes that song too. We just don't do it a lot, but we probably should do it more. Yeah, occasionally.
I remember one day, I don't know, you were on a tour in Germany, and we were talking after the show, and Chris was praising Can't Say No. He was like, the best Spin Doctors song. We have to play it more often. I was like, yeah, finally, let's go.
Well, maybe we will. It's a cool song. It's just an old song. It's like it's a very early song.
So let's go on to Up for Grabs, a record where you played a lot on. It was a live recording from Wetlands in 1990, and it was your first official kind of release after you signed with Epic Records. So kind of an important moment in the band's career, right?
Very. Yeah, that was a great gig. Really, at that time, we were just blowing up locally in New York. And we did that gig, and we recorded that gig, and Peter, I think Peter mixed that gig, and we even have a sound check, the Rosetta Stone from the sound check, which is the room empty, which sounds great, and the feeling and the vibe and everything. It's a great picture, perhaps the best picture of us, sort of in our heyday in the clubs in New York.
I always wondered who did the song selection. When you listen to the entire show, there's so much good stuff to choose from, and you added some stuff to the ones that you released later on Home by the Groove. But do you remember who did the song selection initially?
I'm not sure I do remember. I'm not really sure. It was probably a collective decision, I think. Maybe. I mean, yeah, probably. It probably was.
It's so interesting to hear the old version of Little Miss Can't Be Wrong, so the original version without the guitar lick. And still, whenever I listen to this, it's like, oh, something's missing. No, that's the original one.
Yeah. Well, I will say this about that. The thing of it is that before we recorded those songs, there's only me as the guitar. I'm the only guitar player in the band. So at that time, I had a really clear vision of what I thought should be the other guitar part. I knew there was another guitar part, and I kind of was really looking forward making that happen. And in the meantime, I would just play something different every night. And so, so the early recording is just, that's really who we were. We didn't really ever play anything the same way twice. And so that was just us really, in our element, sort of improvising, playing the songs. And then when we got into the studio, I think we had an awareness, certainly I did, that it was time to make these songs, mint them, you know what I mean? Like a coin, make them in such a way. And I love, the parts from that record. Like when we made Kryptonite, those the second guitar parts are probably my favorite thing I've ever done, because we've been playing the songs in these clubs for really, really like, appreciative crowds. And we were a thing, we were pretty hip at the time. And, so all of that energy, and we got in the studio, and like I had this opportunity to make the other guitar part, and the Little Miss part came very quickly, actually. And, it was really kind of a test take, I think, in my memory. But memory's funny. Memory comes, you think you're remembering something right, and sometimes you're not remembering it right at all. You're remembering it how you remember it. And so, so as soon as we had those parts, I always try to quote them when we play the songs. But the way that the band is that little element of just playing them differently every show, every time, it's still there. So even though those parts are pretty exacting on the show, like I'll always do the Little Miss bits and the Two Princess solo and so forth, they still move a little bit. Like there's still like a little sway in them. They're still a little different every night. There's a different lilt or a different tension or a different mistake, and those things always travel somewhere. So the spirit of improvisation is really alive in the ensemble, like still to this day, even though sometimes it's in a very minute way, it's like omnipresent.
I think you kind of need to keep it fresh by doing so, right? I mean, playing a lot of the songs every night, especially on tours like the one this summer with Blues Traveler and Jim Blossoms. You're playing the same songs, a lot of the same songs each night.
Well, we never can't play. We never can't play Two Princes. We never really can't play Little Miss Can't Be Wrong. We never really can't play Jimmy Olsen because, because they were so popular. I think it would be best said, like if I was working for this band and I wasn't in the band and somebody was telling me, look, you have to play this every night and it's got to be exact, I would probably hate playing the songs. But because, I have the different relationship to them, they I can change them a little bit, but really the as I was saying before, like that, making that recording, it was like so special to me, to be able to actually realize the other guitar parts that I was hearing, but I couldn't play live, right? So to be able to play that stuff, even if it's Two Princes for the 5,000th time, it's still, to me, it's still a celebration to me of that, right? As opposed to somebody saying to me, well, you have to play that thing, it's not like that to me. It's like that thing is actually a living organism, really. It moves ever so slightly.
Let's go back to recording this stuff back in the early 90s, your first major album, your first major studio time. How was it for you being a young musician, being in those studios and getting the opportunity? Were you kind of intimidated of those rooms, or were you like eager and
oh, not at all.
Finally, we can do it.
No, the band was so strong that we really had a great feeling between us. Like,
so we're bursting with self-confidence and let's do this.
Absolutely, yeah. It was like, and if I ever had a lack of confidence, all I had to do was just like look this way or look that way or look over there. And, I remembered that, I was in this killing quartet and, we were really, we were really cutting, we were really cutting the waves, like we were moving forward, and there was a heavy sense of pride and not really super ego, I would say, but just this, like, we were doing our own thing, and it was a celebration to record it, to get into a room, to be able to fill the room full of that. And especially at the beginning, like when we came with the first big truckload of songs that we had, it just couldn't fail,
It took some time until the record took off and was a commercial success. About like a year or 1.5 until the record was like platinum and multi-platinum and so on. So, and then everything blew up. You were on the cover of the Rolling Stone later. You had sold out tours all across the US, international tours and so on. When you recorded the stuff, did you had any idea that you were sitting on gold, or that this would happen? I mean, of course, you're wishing the best for the stuff you do, but you can't expect this, or did you?
I've been in quite a few bands before this band when I was younger, and I'm a big fan of music, anyways. There was just an energy in the city, and with us and around like the scene that we were a part of. There was, it was just like the feeling was so strong that this stuff was powerful, and that we were, like you say, sitting on a powder keg. It was like the feeling was so strong. I wouldn't have been surprised if it failed due to, the world and so forth. But at the time, it was like it might have been the most optimistic I've ever been in terms of, the material and the combination of people and how we fit into the scene, and being in New York itself, which was really at the time a place where, if you could break open New York, that was a big deal, and you sort of felt like, well, if you could do that, then you can move out of New York, and with that sort of ballast to sort of kick over the dominoes in other places as well. So I'll give you a little memory. I remember driving home to Toronto to my mother's house in a snowstorm after I had a cassette of. I think I might have been in the red van when it was new. I borrowed the van and drove back, and I had the cassette of the unmastered version of Kryptonite, and I was listening to it driving through this sideways snow,
Mm-hmm.
and it's quite possibly the best feeling that I can really ever remember. Like it just sounded so good, and it was so realized. Like every part of it, right? Like just it's sort of this feeling like, I can't believe how good this is, like how good it feels. And I don't know if I cared or not, if anything was going to happen with it. I don't know if I really thought about it that way, but I sort of just figured, well, if anybody listens to this, they're gonna hear what I hear. They're gonna feel this, because we had already seen people.
You can't be the only one feeling this.
Yeah, and we already had experience of people in the city coming to see the band and having that same reaction. So, to hear that on the tape was just like, pretty fucking optimistic.
How was this feeling different from your feelings about the next record, Turn It Upside Down, 1994? As a fan from Europe, I always got the impression, looking to you from afar, that you kind of struggled with the record. You even mentioned in an interview that you're not its biggest fan. So how do you feel about this one today? And of course, I'm aware of that there were tensions in the band and so on, but how do you look at the record compared to Pocket?
I liked it. I like Turn It Upside Down. I think there's a lot of really good things about it. Like I like some of the songs more than others, and I like the sounds that we got. I like everybody's playing is great. I never had a problem with that ever. But my problem with the second record, Turn It Upside Down, is that really it's a business thing.
Mhm.
I hadn't really ever thought of it at the time so much, but even now looking back, like I think I can say with certainty that Sony Music, we actually signed with CBS and they became Sony after that. It's sort of an interesting time to be traveling through the music business. But they, we were on a contract that had a 1.5-year term per call. So they had 2 records that they could call for in a contract period. And they called for the second record, in my mind, too early.
So the record company can tell you we need the new one now.
They made us deliver another record, and wanted to work the other record, and then had expectations of the other record. And the very fact that was what was happening created a whole wave or inertia of expectation and of having to do. And I think an old friend of mine used to say, if you guys fail, it's just bad management. And in a way, I really think that's true. I think it's hard to be good management in any world anyways, so I'm not really faulting anybody. I mean, in the end, when you get older, you realize everything is everybody's fault anyhow.
Mm.
So, but I think that record was called for too early. I think that Pocket Full of Kryptonite could have lasted another 1.5 years easily. I think that if it had of, the trajectory of the band would have been different. There was just too much pressure on trying to make another Pocket Full of Kryptonite. And the way that we are, we weren't able to, we had different reactions individually to that expectation, right? And so some of us handled it better, some of us handled it worse, or maybe a different way to look at it is some of us handled it some way and some of us handled it in other ways. And so for me, speaking personally, that's what was going on with me. I think in the back of my mind, I felt like it wasn't really fair. We didn't need to make this record yet. We could have continued to do business on the first record very effectively. And, I can only speak for myself really. And of course at the time, Kryptonite had become very successful. Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of, revenue starting to generate. And certainly in the music business, as you find out when you're working in the music business, other people get paid a lot more than the band does. Yeah. Certainly in the beginning, for sure. And so you have a manager that's taking 20%, and you have a record company that's making $1 gazillion or whatever they're making, right? So the pressure, and the booking agent, mm-hmm. right, who's also making 10% or 15% or whatever the fuck he was making. So those 3 entities, right? Those 3 entities counterbalanced the goodness of the band in my mind. And if I could, throw some magic powder on the past and make anything different, it would be exactly that. I would say, guys, don't worry about the next record. Don't sweat it. Pocket Full of Kryptonite's been on the charts for like fucking 40 weeks, and we can last a little while longer. And, we'll continue to work it. And when you guys, get ahead of steam where you feel like you've really got something, let's make that mm-hmm. record, and I think that would have made things different. So that's my explanation of what I don't like about Turn It Upside Down. Mm-hmm. Is like the parts that I don't like of it are the parts that are forced, and in some groups that might be a different result, but in our group at the time, and this is my estimation, it is that forced isn't always really good with the Spin Doctors. I think I said it before. We're really good when we're not trying. Like when we're not trying and it's natural, we're really a wonderful organism. And so that's, it didn't hit my expectation.
So kind of too early, too forced, and too much pressure to go in the studio again. already.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I might be the only one that feels that way, but that's what led me out of the band too, actually.
As a fan, it's always interesting that of all records, Turn It Upside Down is the one closest to my heart.
A lot of people love it. A lot of people really like it, and I get that, and that's cool. And there's a lot, like I say, there's a lot of things I really like about it. And I even said it at the beginning when we started talking. You were asking about Can't Say No, and my relationship to music that I'm part of, that I'm part of making, that I'm part of composing and so forth and so on is I think it's like markedly different from the other two writers in the band. I am not a guy who really likes, some people don't like the sound of their own voice. I don't always like what's coming out, like that I'm part of, that I'm composing, right? Like, it's like, I have a really hard time with that. I want to throw it away. I want to throw it at the wall. I want to throw it out the window. It's like I have this sort of, gravitation to being like, I am like a punk rock and roll rebel in my heart. Right. And it always feels like, I should be doing the thing that, that if somebody starts to like it, I start not liking it. Like, it's just,
okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's my, I'm like sort of just a rock and roller in my heart.
Interesting that the song that you're singing on is Indifference, which is kind of a more ballady track, a more quiet
it's a beautiful song.
It's beautiful,
yeah.
and I think it sounds so modern and so fresh until today. I'm over the moon with how this one stood the test of time. I'm really impressed of this particular recording.
Yeah, I really love that song too. I feel like I never finished it properly. I feel like it's not finished. I'm still trying to finish it, but having said that, I do think that, I really do love that song. And I think that for all that I've already said, like, all these songs, they seem to strike a nerve in people. They seem to like, scratch the ground of reality, and people like recognize that there's truth and grit in that. And in that, I'm just saying that personally, it's very hard for me sometimes to actually, sleep with that.
Couple of months after the album came out, you and the band split up. You left the band.
I did, yeah.
And then, like 9 years or 8 years came. 7 years. I'm sorry, 7. Of course, 2001. Yeah.
Almost exactly 7. Like, pretty much exactly.
Your last
7.
show was like August 30 or something like that.
Yeah,
and September the 7th was the reunion.
Yeah, and 7 years, and I mean, how crazy is that, right? And that was not planned.
Yes, of course not. Yeah.
So neither thing was planned.
So what do you think about those two albums that came when you weren't in the band? How do you feel about them?
Well, I mean, there's one song on Something to Believe In that I'm part of. House is on there, and that's a composition from the early days, and so
and Sisyphus as well, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have credit on that or not. I don't know, because to be honest with you, I don't. I should, but I'm not sure, because quite frankly, I really don't deal with that record or the other record very much at all.
Okay.
For the reason that I wasn't part of it, and I was in a completely different place at the time, and it just doesn't really represent me. I mean, I'm psyched that it's a complicated time, right? At the time, I really didn't like the Spin Doctors at all. And they probably didn't like me, which is fine. But sometimes you feel like that about people that you actually love. You hate them for a while, but it doesn't override the love. Is always a little stronger than, and if proper gravity prevails, the boomerang comes back around. And we were lucky because it did. And there's a few different reasons for that. I'll forever be grateful to Aaron, because I think without Aaron, the band wouldn't still exist. And so I think with respect to those records, I'm not crazy about Something to Believe In. It's a bit of a rock record. It's a reaction to things, and I respect that about it. I'm really not crazy about it. For many reasons, really. But I suppose. I don't really need to list the reasons. I don't really need to be critical there's a few different reasons. And so I don't really deal with that one. And then the next record, the Bride, is like,
Here Comes the Bride,
yeah, is like, I think Aaron said it, and I agree with him. It really should have been his record, because it's kind of his, it's sort of his, it's really his baby, that record.
Yeah, completely different approach, like working in the studio and instead of like going to the studio with songs and so on.
Yeah. It's and he's a brilliant musician. I respect him, for endlessly. And so I think I think I agree with him about that record. I think that is what that is. But at the same time, if it wasn't a Spin Doctors record, I don't think the band would have survived through that period. Mm-hmm. So as I say, I'm really grateful to him that he prevailed and that went through, because it sort of led us to now. So, that's really how I feel about them. I have trouble dealing with them. I really don't. We don't really play the songs off those records, which is fine with me. And I think we have a lot of material other than that material. And we've just sort of come to peace with that. We don't really deal with those records. They still do business. I have to I have to acknowledge that other people are celebrating their birthdays, which is something people do with records nowadays. Well, I will never really understand, but whatever. And and
so there won't be a 30th anniversary show of You've Got to Believe in Something this year.
Well, if there is, they'll have to reunite that group. That's all. Right? I'll go somewhere else and play with other people that day. So yeah. So I mean, but time is, time is an amazing thing, right? Like, so as I said before, I think you get to a point where you realize that everything is really everybody's fault, and so I can own, my reactive personality to the extent that I acknowledge that I love the Spin Doctors. We are a gravitational force in music that I love. It's one of my favorite band in the world, and we've written some of my favorite songs in the world. And there's a period there where I was out doing something and they were out doing something else, and that's just the way it is, and that's cool, man. Because we came back around, and then we made I guess the next one was
Nice Talking to Me.
Nice Talking to Me, yeah.
So yeah, that will be, of course, the next one I would like to talk about. 4 years after the reunion. It came out in 2005, and it has a song of yours from back in the Cork days, Genuine.
Yeah, well, Corky and I are Corky Lang is the drummer from Mountain, who wrote Mississippi Queen, actually, and he's the inertia behind that song, and that got him into the band Mountain and playing with Felix and Les, and Corky and I are like brothers. We're like, I met him, and it was like I was looking in the mirror at some guy that was like 15 years older than me. We've been best friends ever since that day. I met him in Electric Lady Studios. When I was recording with Eddie Kramer, we were doing 2 songs for this record called The Symphonic Works of Jimi Hendrix.
Oh yeah,
in 1995.
In From the Storm, or
yeah, I had In From the Storm, and I had this unbelievable experience of being able to play one song with Noel and one song with Billy Cox in the studio with Eddie. And I brought in Dave Aberzees, who had just been fired from Pearl Jam. And Dave and I became friends because we both I quit one band and he was fired from one band that were both the 2 biggest bands on Epic at the time. And so as soon as I found out that I'd met him like once, as soon as I heard that he was fired, I called him like right away. And I was like, hey, dude, I heard you got fired from Pearl Jam. I just quit the Spin Doctors. I'm coming over. And I spent like 3 weeks at his house. Like I went to Seattle, and we bonded, and we've done some stuff over the years. We're good friends. And so Eddie contacted me about this project, and he was wondering about a drummer, like on the phone. I was like, I got the guy. And so Dave came and he played, and it was terrific. It was a great, anyways, I walked into the studio. The very first time I met Noel walked in the studio. Noel walked into Electric Lady, the control room downstairs, and he walked in with Corky. They walked in together because they were working in Mountain at the time together, because Noel was the bass player for a minute in Mountain. And Noel walked in. How do you do? And this dude walked in behind him. And it was just like, I looked at this guy and it's like, I feel like he looks like we could be like first cousins. I was just like, who the fuck are you? And he was like, oh. He grew up in Montreal. I grew up in Toronto. It was just like he used to live in the Village in the 60s. My mother is from the Village in New York City. And I spent a lot of my childhood in the Village from like 1968 all the way up until the Spin Doctors. We went to the New York all the time. And so and Electric Lady is on 8th Street. It's in the Village. And so there was all these sort of like things that happened. And Corky and I became instant friends and instant songwriting partners. Like, and I'm going to be working with him in 2 weeks. He's like,
oh, great.
We've written like tons of songs together. And I have like 2 of them on my solo record that's coming out next year.
Oh, great.
Genuine is on Nice Talking to Me, on Face Full of Cake. The song that I sing is called
She Stands Alone, right?
Stands Alone. Corky and I wrote that song as well.
Yeah, I remember the version on the second Cork album, from 2003 or something like that. Yeah.
And again, like I told you before, I love to play. And for me, like a recorded version, we live in a world where, people are constantly writing here's my new song, and a new record. And I'm not really like that. I always feel like there's something more to be said about the thing that I always kind of want to re-record something or, do a better job of it, to have a different angle on it. And so for me to be able to bring Genuine back and record it with, the guys, She Stands Alone, which was actually called, it was called something different on the Cork record. It was called...
no, I think it was...
it might have been She Don't Care About Tomorrow. Maybe it was Anyways, in any case, fortunately, Corky loves to have... We have this kind of relationship. Like if he wants to take a song to somewhere, I give him my blessing. And if he wants other people to have an idea on it and, become part of the song, I don't even care. And he doesn't even care. So it's great. So, yeah.
Back to Nice Talking to Me, you had like those 2 albums with Corgi in the back. Speed of Thought was like from 1998, and then a couple of years later it came out there. So the band was back together, and you were looking for songs to record for this 2005 record. How do you look back on this one? It's like 21 years ago. Crazy.
Nice Talking to Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that record. I think it's great. Nice Talking to Me is like... I think I feel a bit like it, like you feel about Turn It Upside Down. Like I feel like it almost is a great Spin Doctors record. It's very, very, very close.
What's missing to be a great one?
Well,
in your opinion,
it's trying a little bit. Like the Fistful of Cake is a great Spin Doctors record. Nice Talking to Me is like almost a great Spin Doctors record, and same with Turn It Upside Down. Kryptonite is a great Spin Doctors record. Up for Grabs is a great Spin Doctors record. Homebelly Groove is almost a great Spin Doctors record. Right. So the ones that really don't try are the ones that I...
Okay. How does If the River Was Whiskey fit in?
Well, whiskey is like, it's a different beast because, it's almost like, it's almost a demo tape.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's literally...
It was actually, right?
Yeah, exactly. It literally is a demo tape. And so, I mean, I feel good about it. I love that record. It's great. And blues is like that anyways, But I've recut a couple of those songs too.
So you wouldn't consider like a studio album as in the same vein as Nice Talking to Me or Face Full of Cake, correct?
What do you mean, the blues record?
Yeah, the blues record. I mean, it was kind of a live in studio thing, no overdubs.
To me, the blues record fits more like in an up for grabs kind of way. Mm-hmm. It's sort of it's really a live record in many ways. I don't think there's any overdubs on it. The thing of it is that the thing that you need to understand, or you may understand, or for the benefit of the podcast, is that we were in a really horrible deal with Sony Music for a long time. And so the reason why there's not many records right at that period, right, is because first of all, when we put the band back together, and we do have this supreme like early catalog where we can work on those songs, which is great. So that's one thing, that's a positive. But on the other hand, we were trying to get out of the Sony music deal for a long, long time. And just because of the contractual language, we should have gotten out of that deal just by making Nice Talking to Me. But we didn't make it for a major label. So it violated that we couldn't check that box in the record contract. In the record contract, it said we needed to make a record for a major label, another major label, to be free of Sony. And same thing with the blues record. It was the same thing. So it was just a frustrating situation where, I don't really feel like we really weren't quite free to be making records. During that whole period of time, there was this thing hanging over us. Now we're free. The Nice Talking to Me got us out of that deal because we made it for Capitol. That satisfied that contractual obligation, and we are now a free entity, which is a wonderful thing for us. As I said in the beginning, we're best when we don't try. And
so you can do studio stuff without that pressure or this thing in mind again.
Yeah, we're not trying to get out of this ridiculous arrangement with Sony Music, and that's how I see it. I don't know how other people see it, but that's how I see it, and that checks a big box with respect to being free and being able to be the kind of free-spirited group that when we are the best group that we can be.
So you already mentioned Face Full of Cake, the most recent album of yours.
I really like that record. Love it.
Everyone does, because it's a great one.
Yeah, it's a really good one. It's my favorite.
What makes it great for you?
It is very, very similar to Pocketful of Kryptonite in a few ways. You already mentioned that I left the group for 7 years, and Mark left the group actually at the end of that 7 years. He was frustrated with, as I recall, I can't speak for him, but he was frustrated with the Bride record too. He felt like he felt like it wasn't really a Spin Doctors record. Time has told that's actually kind of true. And, and so he and I actually had a trio with Corky for a minute right then too.
He's playing bass on one track on the second Cork album, if I remember correctly.
We went and toured around a little bit. The two of them hate each other. They didn't get along at all.
Oh,
not at all. It was like, one guy, the 60s drummer and a 70s bass player, it was like they were like two North Poles, it was just like,
oh, God.
They were only playing together because I wanted them to. And in any case, it's a funny period. But I guess I say that to just say that Mark had actually left the band once already. And so the thing that's a preamble to my explanation about Face Full of Cake, because the thing that Kryptonite, in my mind, the thing that Kryptonite and Face Full of Cake have in common very, very strongly is that Chris and Aaron and I had a bag of songs that were already mostly pretty much written, save for some arrangements, and we had a good feeling about them, and we had confidence about them and felt good about them. And in the case of Kryptonite, Mark joined the group. And as soon as Mark came into the room and the four of us clicked, it was instantaneous and extremely undeniable and pure musical joy, I would say. Just a great, like, everybody's hitting the cut together, and it's just like, this is a groove, and it like realized, it realized itself and was undeniable. And then we made the record, and we had this career, and up until, we started hitting the waves that we're talking about. But certainly it could be said that for the first period from 87 till, or really 88 when Mark came in, 88 until 94, 93, 94, those 5-6 years were, tremendous. And, and fast forward to Face Full of Cake. So Mark quit the group, right? And for a number of reasons that one could ask him about. I love Mark. I send him a birthday greeting every year, and if he called me, I'd pick up the phone, and he may, and I may call him, and who knows? We have a good relationship still, but he had some issues around working, mostly during the pandemic, but also. I would contend that he wanted to quit the group. He just hadn't done it yet, and for whatever his reasons are. And being a guy that has quit the group, I can say that I recognize that. I don't recognize it in absolutes, but I that's my feeling. And
so we're talking like 2021 around that time, right?
Exactly.
So late pandemic. Yeah.
That's right. And my grandfather. See it, the guy conducting there in the picture?
Yeah.
That's my grandfather.
Cool.
And my father and my grandmother and many of my other relatives they're classical players, symphony people. And when you get up from the chair and you walk away, the chair is empty, and the symphony doesn't carry on with one less cellist. It needs somebody has to sit down there. And so, in my case, I got up in 94. I got up and they got somebody else to sit there, Fortunately, it wasn't as good as me, but, whatever. But yeah, I shouldn't really say that. Anthony's a nice guy. But, but Mark got up and we needed somebody needed to sit down because we were writing. We had these songs already starting, and we obviously had a direction in mind, and it just so happened, and we had gigs, and an osmotic occurrence. You can talk to different people; will tell you different versions of the story. Always, everybody's got their own version, and my memory is that Aaron and I had a conversation. Jack came up. I knew Jack because I played with Jack briefly when I was out of the Spin Doctors, and with a guy named Hook Herrera in New York. And Aaron knew Jack through the studio, and we knew that Jack had been in Kravitz band, and it just was whatever happened. Jack got the call from Aaron. Aaron called Jack, and Jack said yes, and he came and he played the gig, and there was no presupposition that this was going to carry on any longer than 5 minutes. But we got together, and lo and behold, same fucking feeling. Not the same.
As in the glorious, tremendous days?
It was just the same thing. It was the same thing. It was like the three of us, this guy walks into the room, and, we start playing, and it clicks, and it's not like it clicks. It don't click the way that it clicked with Mark. They're very different. They're very different musicians, Mark and Jack. I mean, to be honest with you, I miss Mark. I miss Mark's hands. Like, I miss playing with him. You play with a guy over the years like that. You develop, your pocket, and you're reading each other in a billionth of a second, and I mean, Jack would tell you the same thing about Craig Ross, the guitar player in Lenny Kravitz.
From Kravitz. Yeah.
I feel exactly the same way about Mark. It's just like, he's.
Yeah, I mean, you can miss something at the same time as you love doing something else.
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean, yeah, so there's that. So that's my disclaimer. Like, I'm not. That's really how I read it. It's like, that was the magic, all that magic of the chemistry of the four of us was, as I've told it. When Jack walked into the room, it clicked in a slightly different way, on a slightly different axis, but it fucking clicked hard. And I think that Jack is an extremely prescient musician. And he's shrewd, and he's smart, and he's imaginative, and he sees music clearly, and he's a tremendous musician. And he and us and everybody just had that same reaction. We're like, holy shit, this is awesome. We played some gigs. We started unraveling the tunes that we had. Jack fit in a very similar way that I described with Mark. It was just a different fit. And as a result, we don't hard funk anymore, really. I mean, we can try, but we don't do that. We don't do that thing. We play the tunes at that small angle. We don't really touch that like we used to. But on the other side, we like melodic rock in a way that we never did before. And so it's just like the swing spectrum it just kind of went like, and it shifted over the axis. The axis changed slightly, but the polarity is just as massive. And so that's what happened. And that is the reason why I feel like Face Full of Cake is my second favorite Spin Doctors record.
Fantastic. You can hear the joy of playing, exactly. You guys playing together.
Yeah, it's got all of that stuff, and that's what's really, and when we hit live, it feels like that every night. And that's to the credit of the band. It's the credit of the band. It's to the credit of the ensemble itself, right? The Spin Doctors itself is a thing. And even though everybody in the band has their own view of how they fit into it, and how important or not, or whatever, it's like the actual ensemble to me is the big deal. And the fact that this guy walked in and filled that void, not only completely, but in his own way, with his own recipe, his own character, that then reflects back on the ensemble. It doesn't detract from it, makes it more complete in its entirety. Now, that's what makes me love that record, because I hear that's what I hear in it, and that's what I hear in Kryptonite. I hear that it's exactly the same thing. It's like this, this sort of like it's almost exploding. It's like when it's just forming, like everything's molten, but you can tell that it's hanging together. There's gravity, and you can hear the potential. You can hear the potential. You can recognize it. You can also hear, like, I want to hear more. What else is there? I want to get inside this and get inside that. I want to go see that live. I don't feel that way from the other records, but I feel that way about those two records.
It's really heartwarming to see and hear you talk about this new record and what it's doing to you and to the band. Congratulations on that situation. Thanks. So what's ahead for the band? You mentioned the solo album for next year, and any plans on recording with the band again? Yeah,
we do. We have. I would say, I can't speak for anybody else, but I do know that, like, Aaron has his solo career and all the things that he does. And Chris has his solo career and all the things that he does. And I have my solo career and all the things that I do. And I think that we have talked already about getting back in and doing another record. And I would say that I hope that by the end of the year, we've gone into the studio at least once and started it. It's going to happen. It should happen. We should have a new record. I mean, to me, we should have a new record by next summer. I hope.
Great. Sounds good. Yeah. Maybe one more question about the solo record that you mentioned with the songs that you wrote with Cork. What's this project?
Oh, it's actually finished. It's my new record is it's called 10 Smiles, and it's going to be coming out distributed by Believe up here in Canada, and it's 10 tunes. 10 Smiles, and
yay!
It has a lot of stuff on it. And my first solo record was like, I wrote almost the entire record myself, except for 2 songs. I always have a Corky song. I recorded Locked in the House All Day, and also I had a song from a country band that I played in, that I wrote with here in Canada, called not the band, but the song it's called Lincoln's Feet. The video is called Salvation.
Oh yeah, that was one with the Open Heart Society, right?
Yeah, Open Heart Society, right? And exactly. And so I had one song with those guys. I brought that to the record, and I had one song with Cork. I brought that to the record. But the rest of the record was just my stuff. The other 8 or 9 songs they're just my songs. This record is fantastic. I think I'm just about finished mixing it, and it's 10 songs. I think there's like 3 of mine, just my songs, and then I have 2 songs, 2 co-writes with Cork, and I got a song I wrote with John O'Manson.
Oh yeah, I saw you guys in the studio a couple of months back. Yeah,
we have a group also called the Delinas that we haven't released. That we haven't released yet, but we will be releasing something and probably going on a little tour, doing some little gigs like next spring
sweet.
when Aaron and Jack are in Germany. So I have like the 7 weeks in the spring that I can. So I'll be taking my thing out, and John and me will go out and play because I can actually make some plans, which is cool. And my record will be out probably, by then for sure. I'm not sure when I'm going to actually release it, because that's more a function of how, the record business is now or isn't.
Mm.
And so I'm not going to, but I will say this, that there'll be singles coming out from the record, like very soon until whenever it comes out.
Great.
For sure.
Great. So lots of music that we can look forward to.
And even
the solo one.
I will add, and even I've recut a couple of songs from our blues days that actually are going to also be one's pretty significantly reimagined, and one's just one that I like to sing. I won't give them up. I won't tell you which ones they are.
Oh, cool! So from the early Spin Doctors blues catalog,
our blues catalog, yeah,
which is on the solo one, yeah,
yeah, as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
So really looking forward to hearing that
it's
stuff.
It's going to be cool. I really think it's my rhythm section, my favorite rhythm section that I work with up here. Great drummer Al Cross and a great bass player Stan Mizek. And
are these some of the guys that you're playing with every Wednesday?
Yeah. There's a terrific, wider scene of all of them, fantastic musicians that I've been working with I've been playing Wednesdays at Grossman's Tavern for 10 years.
Amazing.
And it's really, it has widened my musical everything. And I owe all of these people that here in Toronto, the scene, they're inspiration to me, and they're supportive of me, and I'm supportive of them. And so this record that's coming out is largely just an appreciation of them, but not only them, but also of the guys, also of Aaron and Chris and Mark from the old days as well. Because, it's all a retrospective to me, Dan, all of it, and so I'm just trying to encapsulate and, document, redocument, play. Yeah,
makes me even more looking forward to hearing it one day.
I look forward to sending you a copy. But there'll be there'll be single songs coming out in
great.
Yeah, so
great.
So let me know. Yeah.
Eric, it was fantastic talking to you. Thanks so much for your thoughts, for your stories. Thanks for being in the podcast. Finally.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's great. It's great to talk to you, and thank you also. I should really thank you as well for being so supportive of the band, because you're our archivist, and people don't do that as a job. They do it because they love to archive things, and they like to.
Exactly.
And that's why I appreciate you, because.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
It's all because of your music. So.
Yeah, well, partly now I blame you too. So it's also your fault.
Okay. Okay, so it's our fault then.
It's our fault.
Thanks so much for your time. Thanks, Eric.
Right on, man. Thanks a lot, Daniel.
That was my conversation with Eric Schenkman. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Be sure to keep an eye out for new music from Eric, and fingers crossed for new Spin Doctors music in the near future as well. For set lists, live recordings, band news, and a complete discography, please visit my website at spindoctorsarchive.com. You can also follow Spin Doctors Archive on Instagram and Facebook. Please subscribe to this podcast, leave a rating, and tune in next time. I'm Daniel. Thanks for listening, and Mau Be Jiao, people.